Hello friends, welcome to a lecture series on multivariable calculus. So, the first lecture deals with functions of several variables, that what do you mean by function of two variable or more than two variables, how can you define domain and range of those functions. Now, in our 11th or 12th standard, we have already deal with what do you mean by a function of single variable. Let us recall those definition and then we will come to functions of several variables. Now, let x is subset of R, okay. Then f from x to R or x to y, suppose y is also subset of R, then f from x to y is called a function. Basically a function, what a function basically means, a function f from x to y is a spatial type of relation in which for every x in x there exists a unique image y in y by some rule, say y is equals to f x. So, basically what do you mean by function of single variable? It means it is a special type of relation in which you take any x, any element x in x, there will always exist a unique image y in y by some rule, say y equal to f x. So, you have basically this is suppose x and say this is suppose some y, this is a function from x to y. We have several elements, small x in capital X, some elements in x, and there will always exist some y in y such that y equal to f x, okay. Now, this x where function is defined, okay, this we call as domain of the function, okay, this x is called domain of the function. So, x is all those x belongs to R where f x is defined, this we call as domain of f, okay. Now, what do you mean by range of f? Now what do you mean by function is defined? In simple speaking, we say that function is defined if it is not a complex number and the denominator should not equal to 0, okay. Then we say that function is defined, and all those x where function is defined we call that set as domain of the function. Now, the image of the domain of the function on y, that set is called range of the function. So, how we can define range of the function? So, range of f is simply all those y belongs to y such that y is equals to f x and x belongs to capital X. Collection of all those y where such that y equal to f x and x belongs to capital X is called range of the function, and it is quite natural that this range of the function is always a subset of capital Y, okay. If it is a proper subset of capital Y, we call such function as into function, okay. If range of f is proper subset of y, then this is called, f is called into mapping or into function, okay, into function. And if range of f is equal to y, okay, then f is called onto mapping or onto function. We have also defined one to one mapping or one to one function or many to one function. How can you define that? If you take any two distinct x in x and the image concerned to that distinct x are also distinct. For every pair, for every distinct pair x1 and x2 in capital X, we say that the mapping is 1 to 1. So, how can you define 1 to 1 mapping? 1 to 1 means f is said to be 1 to 1 function or mapping if for every x1 x2 in x, x1 not equal to x2 implies fx1 not equal to fx2. That means for any two distinct pair in capital X, the corresponding image in y are also different. So, such mappings are called 1 to 1 mapping, and if there exists a distinct pair in capital X such that the image corresponding to those distinct pair is same, then that mapping is called many to one mapping. So, f is called many to one mapping, many one mapping or many one function if there exist x1 x2 in x such that x1 not equal to x2 implies fx1 is equals to fx2. So, such mappings are called many to one mapping. So, this all this we have already studied in our 10+2 standard, that what are many to one mapping, what are 1 to 1 mapping when a function is said to be into and onto. Okay. Now, suppose we have this single variable function fx is equals to a simple example, say under root of say x square minus 1. Okay. Now, I want to find out the domain and range of this function. Okay. So, this function will not be a complex number if x square minus 1 is greater than equal to 0. So, this quantity should be greater than equal to 0, then this function will not be a complex number. So, that is how we can define domain of a function. So, this implies x minus 1 and x plus 1 should be greater than equal to 0. So, if you take this is minus 1 and plus 1, okay. This is 0 when x is minus 1 and this is 0 when x is plus 1. You take any point in between, say x equal to 0. When you put x equal to 0 here, it is minus 1. When you put x equal to 0 here, it is plus 1. Plus 1 into minus 1 is not greater than equal to 0. So, shade will not be in between minus 1 to plus 1. Shade will be from this side and from this side. That is, the domain of f will be minus infinity to minus 1 union 1 to infinity. Okay. And what will be the range of the function? Now, this function f will never be negative because it is in under root, square root. So, this will never be negative. So, range will always be positive, that means it is from 0 to infinity. So, in this way we can define range and domain of a function. So, this is a simple illustration of a single variable function. Now, we come to several variable functions. Now, come to function of 2 or more than 2 variables. Now, first is 2 variable function fxy. So, let x as subset of R and y as subset of R. If for every xy belongs to x cross y, there exists a unique real number z according to some rule fxy, then fxy is called real valued function of 2 variables x and y. Okay. Now, instead of one variable we are having 2 variables x and y. Okay. The same definition we extend to 2 variable functions. That means, if for every xy in x cross y there exists a unique image z according to some rule, say z equals to fxy, then we say that it is a function of 2 variable x and y. Now, here we are involving 2 variables, 2 input variables, and those input variables are called independent variable, and z, which is a function of x and y, which is equal to fxy, that z is called dependent variable. So, basically if we have this function, say z equals to fxy, So, these input variables, these are also called input variables, okay, or independent variables. And this z which depends on x and y, because if you change the values of x and y according the value of z will change, okay, and this z is called output variable or dependent variable. Okay. Now, here we are having only two variables x and y. Similarly, we may have more than two variables, say n number of variables. So, we can also define w is equals to f x1 x2 up to xn. This is a function of n variables. Okay. So, in the next slide we are having function of n variables. Let t be a subset of Rn of real valued function f on t is a rule that assigns a real number w equal to f of x1 x2 up to xn, where each xi belongs to R. Okay. Now, here these xi's, these x1 x2 up to xn, these are the input variables which were also called independent variables, and this w which depends on x1 x2 up to xn is called output variable or dependent variable. Okay. Now, how can you define domain and range of two variable functions, and similarly we can extend the concept for n variable functions. Okay. In a similar way as we did for two variable functions, we can define domain and range for two variable functions as well. You see, we are having a two variable function z equal to f x y. Here x and y are independent variables and z is a dependent variable. Okay. Now, domain of this function f are all those x y belongs to R2. Okay. All those x y belongs to R2 such that f x y is defined. Collection of all those x y in x y plane basically, where f x y is defined, we call that set as a domain of the function f. Now, the range of the function f, range of f are all those z belongs to R such that z equal to f x y and x y belongs to domain. Say this domain is represented by D, so belongs to D. Okay. So, collection of all those z, collection of all those z such that z equal to f x y, where x y belongs to D, is called range of the function f. Okay. So, that is how we can define domain and range of two variable functions. Similarly, we can define domain and range for n variable functions also. Now, let us discuss few examples based on this. The first example is, suppose f x y is equal to under root x square plus y square. Okay, this is z equal to f x y. Now, what is the domain of this function? Now, domain of this function is this quantity should be greater than or equal to 0, and since x square and plus x square and y square are non-negative quantities and some will also be a non-negative. So, this is always non-negative for any x y in R. So, we say that domain is entire R2. Okay. You take any element x y in R2, x square plus y square is always greater than or equal to 0. So, this will consist of domain of the function, and the range will be, definitely this is under root square root quantity, this will never be negative. So, the range will be from 0 to infinity. 0 will be closed, because when x and y both are 0, f will be 0. So, that will be included in the range of the function. Okay. Similarly, the second example, suppose z equals to f x y is equals to under root of, it is x minus y square. So, what is the domain of this function? Domain will be x minus y whole square. All those x y in R2 such that x minus y square is non-negative will consist of domain of this function f, and range will be of course 0 to infinity. It will never be negative. Okay. Now, come to 3 variable function. Suppose function is w is equals to f x y z is equals to 1 upon x square plus y square plus z square. Now, for this problem, of course, denominator should not equal to 0. For domain of this f, x square plus y square plus z square should not equal to 0. So, because if denominator is 0, this function will not define. So, we say that the domain of the function are all those x, y, z such that the denominator is not equal to 0, and this is 0 only when x, y, z all are 0. So, this implies x, y, z should not equal to 0, 0, 0, and therefore domain are all those R3. R3 means collection of x, y, z, okay, excluding origin will be the domain of f. And what will be range of f? Range of f will be, now this quantity will never be 0, because it will be 0 only when this tends to infinity. Okay. So, this is never be 0, so it will be 0 to infinity, open interval 0 to infinity, and it is always positive because denominator is always positive. So, it is from 0 to infinity. Okay. Now, the next example is to find domain and range is w is equals to y z log x. Now, we know that if we have a function y equal to log x, say, so this log x is defined when x is greater than 0. Okay. So, this y and z there is no problem, because this is a multiplication of two simple variables y into z. Now, this log x is defined only when x is greater than 0. So, this will give half region or half space, we can say, when x is greater than 0. This is basically half space, we should say half space, because it is in all x, y, z where x is greater than 0. So, this means half space. Okay. And the range will be, now this y, z, x may be anything, y, z may be anything. So, it is from minus infinity to plus infinity. So, this will be the range of this function. So, these are few illustrations that how can we find domain and range of several variable functions. Now, come to few more definitions. Now, first is interior point. Now, a point x naught y naught in the region S in the xy plane is called an interior point of S if there exists a disk centered at x naught y naught that lies entirely in S. Now, what does it mean? Let us discuss by an example. Now, consider this region S, all those x y in R2 such that x square plus y square is less than. So, what this region is? So, this is x axis and this is y axis, and this is a basically unit circle, a region inside unit circle. Okay. So, this is 1. So, this is basically the circle. So, this is all those points which lies inside this circle is in S. Okay. So, S is all those xy which are inside this circle. Now, you take any point inside this region. Okay. So, this is S basically. Now, you take any point inside this, say you take this point. Okay. Now, there will always exist a disk centered at this point. Disk means circle, you can say. You can always draw a disk centered at this point such that this disk always lies totally inside this region. So, this point we can call as this point as interior point. You see, if you take this point, if you take a point here, say you take a point here, you draw a circle or a disk centered at this point, there will always exist a disk centered at this point such that the disk lies totally inside this region. So, we again say that this point is an interior point. If you take a point very close to the boundary, still there will exist a disk centered at this point. Radius may be very small, but there will always exist a disk centered at this point such that the disk lies totally inside this region. So, this point is also an interior point. So, that means all the points that it have, this region has, all the points are interior points. You take any point, all the points are interior points. Okay. Now, if you take a point in the boundary, suppose, if you take a point on the boundary, now if you draw a disk centered at this point, then this disk, no matter whatever radius you take, this disk will never be entirely contained in this region, because there are some points which lies outside this region. So, this point cannot be an interior point. If you take a point outside this S, say here, and you draw any disk centered at this point, maybe a larger disk, okay, but the disk centered at this point will never be contained totally inside this region. So, this point again is not an interior point. Okay. So, all those points which lies inside this region S are the interior points. Now, we come to a second definition, that is boundary point. Now, a point x naught y naught in the region S in the xy plane is called a boundary point if every disk centered at x naught y naught contains points that lie outside of S as well as point that lie in S. Now, let us discuss this by an example, again by an example. Suppose instead of this you are having now this region, okay. That means boundary of a unit circle. So, what does it mean? This boundary, this is S, only the boundary, okay. Now, you take any point on the boundary of S, say you take a point here. Now, you take any disk, no matter how small, how large radius you are taking, you take any disk centered at this point, draw a disk centered at this point, you will always find some points outside this region and you will always find some points on the region. I mean the intersection of this disk on the complement of S and intersection of this disk on S never be empty. There will be a point, there will always exist some point that lies outside this disk and that lies on the disk. So, this point is a boundary point. However, if you take a point in the inside region, say here, okay, if you take a point here, so there will exist a disk whose intersection with the outside S is whose intersection with inside S is empty. So, this point is not a boundary point. You take suppose you take this this region S, okay, less than equal to S. So, this S contains all the point that lies on the boundary and all the point that lies inside the region S, okay. Now, if you take a point say here, okay, say here. Now, there will exist a disk center at this point, intersection of this disk with this S is non-empty, by intersection of this disk with outside S is empty. So, this point is not a boundary point, because for every disk no matter how small the radius you are taking, the intersection of this disk with the region S and outside of S should not empty. That is the definition of boundary point. So, all the points that lies on the boundary are the boundary points of S, okay. Now, based on this we can decide whether region is open or closed. How can we do that? How can we say this? Let us see. A region is open if it consists entirely of its interior points. If it consists of entirely of its interior points, then we say that the region is open. For example, if you see on the first figure here on the slide, then this figure is an unit disk without having boundary, and it consists of all its interior points, all the points that are in that are inside this region, all are interior points. So, this region we can say as an open region. Now, region is closed if it contain all its boundary points. You see, if you take a third example here, this contain boundary points as well as interior points. It contain all its boundary points. You see, the boundary is included and it contain all its boundary points. So, this region is closed. So, in this way we can say that whether region in R2 plane, I mean in xy plane, whether it is open or whether it is closed. If it consists entirely of its interior points, we say the region is open, and if it contain all its boundary points, we call its closed region. Now, there may be a region which is neither open nor closed. For example, if you focus on the first figure, okay, and in this figure you include only those boundary points that lies on the upper half of the circle, okay. That means you are talking on only this region. This is S, and on the boundary only these points are included. Not on the lower side of the circle, okay. On the boundary only these points are included. Now, it does not contain all its interior points, because these are also interior points, but it is not this set does not contain those points, it is not closed, and these are interior points. So, it is not open also, because if it is open, then it consists entirely of its interior points. So, there may be some regions which are neither open nor closed, there may be regions which are open, and there may be regions which are only closed. Now, a region may be bounded or unbounded also. How can you decide that? Now, a region in the plane is bounded if it lies inside a disk of fixed radius, otherwise we call it unbounded region. Say you have this line segment, okay. Now, you can always find a circle of fixed radius that covers this line segment, I mean inside which this line segment lies. You can always find a circle of fixed radius. So, we can say that this line segment is a bounded region. You can say you can take a triangle also. If you take a triangle, you can always find a circle of fixed radius such that this triangle lies inside this circle. So, we can say that this triangle is a bounded region. You can take a rectangle, again you can find a circle of fixed radius such that this rectangle lies totally inside this region. So, we can say that this rectangle is a bounded region. Now, suppose you are taking R2 plane, the entire R2 plane, I mean the first quadrant of the xy plane. Suppose you are taking this region. Now, you can never find a circle of fixed radius such that this entire first quadrant of xy plane lies entirely in that circle. So, this region is unbounded region. So, lines, half planes, etc. are the few examples of unbounded regions. Now, contoured lines. Now, what do you mean by contoured lines? So, let us understand this by an example. Okay. So, what contour lines are? Now, you take this example. Now, here z is 75 minus x square minus y square and z is 50. Now, if you try to draw this figure, so this is x, y and z. Now, when x, y both are 0, so z will be 75. So, when x, y both are 0, z will be 75 here. Okay. For any other values of x and y, z will always be less than 75, because this is positive, x square is positive, y square is positive, negative signs are here. So, for any other values of x and y, z is always less than 75. So, it is a paraboloid of something like this. Okay. Now, we have a plane z equal to 50. We have a plane, it is 75, it is 0, 0, 75. Here suppose we have z equal to 50. Now, z equal to 50 is a plane, is a plane in the xy plane where x and y may be anything, but z is always 50. Okay. So, it gives a plane of this type. It is z equal to 50. Now, when z equal to 50, when you substitute z equal to 50 here, so it is 50 is equals to 75 minus x square minus y square. So, this implies x square plus y square is equals to 25. So, it gives a circle basically x square plus y square equal to 25. Now, at z equal to 50, if you draw a circle of radius 5 and center origin, if you draw a circle of radius of this type, radius 5 and center origin. So, this circle is basically this curve, basically we can say this curve is called contour lines. This curve is basically called contour lines. Now, this on the xy plane, this circle on the basically is a circle. So, this circle on the xy plane is basically called level curve of f when z equal to 50. Okay. So, this is how we can define contour lines. Contour lines is basically you have a surface z equal to f x y, a plane z equal to say intersect that surface and gives a curve. That curve basically a contour line, and that contour line on the that curve on the xy plane is basically called level curve. So, here also I have said the same thing, a plane z equal to c intersect a surface this in the points given by f x y equal to c. This curve is called contour lines of f x y equal to c. Okay. Now here it is the level curve, here it is a level curve because we have a curve here. Now if we have a here only two independent variables are there. If instead of 2 independent variables we are having 3 independent variables, so this will give a level surface. Okay. So the collection of all points x, y, z in space where a function of 3 independent variables have constant value f x, y, z equal to c is called level surface of f. So these are two problems. Let us discuss these problems quickly. First is find the equation of for a level curve of the function this that passes through this. So what is first example? This is f x y is equal to 16 minus x square minus y square, and point is 2 under root 2 under root 2. Now when you substitute under root 2 under root 2 and 2 under root 2 under root 2 and under 2 here, so we will obtain it is 16 minus it is 8 minus 2, that is 10, that is 6, sorry, okay, that is 6. So so the level curve of this will be 16 minus x square minus y square equal to 6 and implies x square plus y square equals to 10. So very simple, you simply substitute because it passes through this point. It passes through this point means this is equal to 6, and when you substitute equal to 6 here, so this will give a level curve of f at this point. Similarly, we can find level surface of the function this at minus 1, 2, comma. So that is how we can define function of several variables, domain and range of a function of 2 or more variables. Domain here gives the region, and that region may be closed or may be open, may not be closed or may not be open, or may be bounded or may be unbounded. So thank you very much.